You're listening to the Third Down Squad podcast, the best international news podcast for the National Football League. We're your hosts, Derek, Josh, and Toby. Let's get you ready for new set downs on Sunday.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Third Down Squad podcast. We have a quarterback and mock draft filled episode for you guys today. We're going to be talking a bunch of different quarterbacks, mainly Phillip Rivers, Dak Prescott, Jameis Winston, and we'll also be talking about Myles Garrett's reinstatement into the NFL. And then we will finish it off with Toby's mock draft. So let's get started, and we're going to break the first news with Phillip Rivers. After 17 years of being a Chargers quarterback, he is no longer with them, and he is now a unrestricted free agent. He is free to go anywhere he pleases, and now there's a lot of people that are wondering where he will end up. Most think that he will have somewhere to go. He's still a decent quarterback when you look at the numbers and everything else. Colts is one of the names that brings a lot to mind. Even the national media is kind of feeding that idea now. Josh can talk about it. I will probably say something about it too. Tampa Bay is another one. There's a couple other teams, but guys, if you think Phillip Rivers is going somewhere, where do you think he's going to end up? Toby?
Yeah, I mean, we have heard the story that he and his family moved to Florida, so as you said, the Buccaneers are a place where he could land, but we still don't know what is going to happen to Jameis Winston. Another place might be Miami. Maybe Bill Belichick goes crazy and picks up Phillip Rivers.
If Tom Brady does end up leaving.
Yeah, I mean, there have been memes about Phillip Rivers being the successor to Drew Brees at San Diego. Why not with the Saints? So basically, everywhere that needs a quarterback is open to Phillip Rivers. I think he is probably the best veteran quarterback out there on the free agent market right now. So I think every team that needs a quarterback is at least taking a look at him.
Josh, what do you think?
I honestly still, regardless of what's going on with Jameis Winston, I think he's still going to possibly go to the Buccaneers. It just seems to fit, and like the coincidence that, you know, they're thinking about getting rid of Jameis Winston could be a possibility for him. And I know he moved to Florida, but I'm also going to toss this one out here for Carolina, you know, with the whole new owner with Cam Newton, like saying, well, is he injured? That just kind of shows you that they kind of are about ready to move on from Cam Newton. So I think you could still draft a quarterback in the draft if I'm the Panthers, but I'd have Phillip Rivers in as like a placeholder to have your rookie quarterback wait like 1 or 2 years. Because from what I heard, it sounded like Phillip Rivers said he had like 2 years left in him, you know, to win a championship. If not, you know. And for people saying that Phillip Rivers can go to the Colts, I see what you mean. But we want to win championships. It's nothing against Phillip Rivers, but his track record just proves that he's just not meant to win big, meaningful games. And right. I know it's probably coaching staff and stuff like that that's to blame. I get that, but he just wouldn't fit what we have going on for the Colts right now. And a lot of it has to do with, you know, not winning big games, but his throwing style. I mean, I don't even know if I can like replicate that because he like does it so weird. Like his like arm goes like this.
It's a weird, yeah.
It's a weird throw. And remember, he did graduate from NC State, so why can't he go back to Carolina too? So I think it's between Carolina and Tampa Bay.
Yeah, that's a team that I didn't even think about, Josh. Carolina, that's a interesting take. I mean, it would make sense, you know, bring a guy with some veteran leadership, some competitive firepower out there that can, you know, it just depends on what their situation is with Cam Newton, whether or not they actually want to give him up. Honestly, don't know, like, if they're actually going to be able to trade him, because I don't know if at this moment in time somebody's going to want to give up a first-round draft pick for Cam Newton, especially, like, guys that are on the QB market right now. Like the teams that are on the QB market right now, most of them are in the top 15, And I don't know if Cam Newton's really worth a top 15 pick at this moment in time. So it is a good question. Here's why I think the allure of the Colts getting Phillip Rivers has everyone on their mind. And I like the idea, because here's the thing. You know that whatever team gets Phillip Rivers, it's not a long-term thing. It is a short-term situation, basically, because it's not a solution. He's not a solution in anything. He's just a short-term replacement thing to whatever it is that you feel like you need done. Phillip Rivers has a lot of competitive fire still in him, even at 37. Still can throw the football. He is a veteran. He has learned under Frank Reich. Frank Reich was one of his coaches back in San Diego when they were still in San Diego. So a while back, those two did know each other. So they do understand each other's tendencies a lot better than some other places do. And, you know, with Phillip Rivers, you're getting a team in the Colts that's foundationally set where it wants to be right now. They're just missing a quarterback. And I think the Colts, even if you get a Phillip Rivers, you're still going to draft a quarterback either this year or next year to learn under Phillip Rivers. And that's what you're bringing him in to do. You're not bringing him in to say the next 2 or 3 years are absolutely yours. Go take it, be what you can be. They would bring him in to say, we want you to win games, but we also want you to mentor these guys. Because, again, we're really young. If we bring a quarterback in, we need you to teach them. We need you to mentor them. We need you to be their role model. And that's exactly what you would want from a Phillip Rivers, and that's what you can get. So I think it makes perfect sense why people would say, oh, it's, you know, you would go with the Indianapolis Colts because, again, they can run the football, kind of like what Los Angeles was able to do with Melvin Gordon from time to time. They have running back options that can free that stress off of him. They have a better offensive line, a way better offensive line than what Phillip Rivers has had throughout most of his career. They got some decent wide receivers as long as they can stay healthy. Their defense is on the up and up. So it is a good situation for him. Like you said, guys, Tampa Bay, Miami is another option. Carolina is another option. I agree with Toby that any team that is on the quarterback market and isn't too sure about what their quarterback situation is for this year will probably be giving Phillip Rivers a call. That I have no doubt. All right. So now we're going to move on from Phillip Rivers to Jameis Winston, where it was reported that Jameis Winston had LASIK eye surgery to allow him to see more profoundly. It's been reported that ever since Jameis Winston got into college, really, at Florida State, he has had a tremendous issue with being able to see very well. I think everybody's I've seen the pictures of like him squinting really hard when he's been throwing the football. It's quite obvious that he has a problem with glare and everything else. So now I know everybody's been making the memes out there that, you know, now Jameis Winston will know he has 4 wide receivers instead of, 8 wide receivers. But, it's kind of one of those things that if you look at it seriously here, and Josh, we'll start with you. If this was actually meant to improve Jameis Winston's vision and it actually does that, do you think that this could potentially be a little better for him going forward and making him a better quarterback, being able to see better?
I think it will. But I still think his time at Tampa Bay is done. But I think he did it, one, to improve his quarterback, abilities. And the second is, I don't like saying it like this, but it's going to come off like I'm saying it's like he's boosting his own stock in the free agent market. Because he could say, look, this was me before I had eye surgery. I have eye surgery now that helps me improve my vision so I can play better. That's kind of what it comes off as him just saying, I didn't want to do this, but now that people know I'm like the first quarterback to have 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions in a season, and like his accuracy was bad all throughout his professional career. And I do think that it did play a role in it. I don't know how he found the other wide receivers, because every highlight I've seen of him, it's either him throwing it to the defense or to Mike Evans. So instead of like the joke of 4 wide receivers, he only threw it to one. That was Mike Evans half the time. And I think that going forward, he did improve his free agency stock going into this.
Toby, what do you think will come of this?
Yeah, I agree with Josh. It's mostly to boost his free agency stock, probably, because if it really was a problem in the past, he probably would have had the surgery a lot earlier. It's I don't really know how much it will actually improve his game. But I don't think he's just gonna become a top 5 quarterback in the league just because he has eye surgery. There's a lot more that goes into it, but yeah, I think, yeah, like Josh said, it's just you can go to teams and say, okay, I did something about it. It might have been a physical issue with my eyes. I had surgery, and now I might be a better quarterback. So he might get a second chance with another team, or maybe even with the Buccaneers. But I don't think a lot will change.
All right, I'm not gonna dispute any of that. I'm not. I totally get what you guys are saying. I'm just gonna look at it from a different perspective here. I think we all can sit here and agree that professional athletes a lot of times will not say anything if they have certain injuries that could keep them from playing. That's commonly been a case throughout all of human reality and of sports, and this is just no exception here. And I'm not a doctor, so I can't sit here and definitively tell anyone what Jameis Winston was seeing and what he wasn't seeing. I can only tell you what it could actually do to improve him. And everybody knows that as a quarterback, your eyes are very important, and what you do and don't see is very, very pivotal. And in flashes of a second, that is what could help you. So if it is indeed the fact that Jameis Winston does have better vision after this, because ultimately that's why you would get LASIK eye surgery, to help you adapt to light better. And especially playing down in the South, that is another thing that, you're exposed to light a lot more, especially outdoors. The sun is a lot more in your eyes and everything else. So that does hurt a little bit. It really just depends at this point. It is a thing, like you guys said, it does make him a more intriguing project at this point, because it says, oh, maybe Jameis Winston can improve that much because of being able to see much more profoundly now. I don't know what to make of this yet, but we will find out whether or not he's going to stay in Tampa, and then we're just going to have to see him play. Now that he's going to have better eyesight, it's going to be a good test to see what else he can do in the league. All right, one last quarterback to talk about, and we're going to talk about Dak Prescott. So we have been talking all year long about what Dak Prescott is worth, right? And so far this offseason, Dak Prescott has remained steady with his supposed 36 plus million a year in contract that he wants. And now Jerry Jones has yet to say anything about whether or not he's paying Dak. Most think that he's not going to if Dak does not come down with that price. So, Toby, we'll start with you on this. Is Jerry Jones doing the Cowboys and Dak Prescott a disservice by not paying him what he wants?
I mean, it's pretty clear that Dak Prescott actually wants his 36 plus $1 million, and I've seen reports that he actually turned down a $33 million offer last offseason, so he seems pretty certain that he wants at least $36 million on his paycheck per year. So my stance on Dak Prescott, I don't think he's anywhere near that valuable to the Cowboys. So I understand Jerry Jones why he doesn't want to pay him that much. It's I wouldn't pay for Dak Prescott over $30 million a year. So I I mean, there are options out there for the Cowboys this year. I mean, they might be in the race for Phillip Rivers, like we talked earlier. So, I mean, yeah, I totally understand Jerry Jones.
Josh, what are you thinking?
I totally understand where Jerry Jones is coming from, because I will always say that he's asking way too much for what he has provided the franchise over the past, 4 years or so. It's like he should get paid, but he shouldn't get paid that much, because what's he want, like Russell Wilson type of money and all that?
I'll break those numbers down. I'll just say this right here, right now. Russell Wilson has the highest average per year contract at $35 million a year. That's as of right at this moment. So Dak Prescott's asking for 36 at least.
Yeah, that's not going to happen, fam. His success is off the hard-working running back of Ezekiel Elliott. Because without him...
You just triggered every Cowboys fan out there with that statement.
Listen. Dallas needed Ezekiel Elliott more than they need Dak Prescott. And it shows in the contract Jerry Jones gave Ezekiel Elliott. Regardless of all the stuff Jerry Jones said, he found out that he needed Ezekiel Elliott more than he needed Dak Prescott. And it's the same for the Cowboys back in like the late 80s, early 90s. They needed Emmitt Smith more than they need Troy Aikman. And Troy Aikman, if you bring up your 3 Super Bowl rings again, I am going to kick a shelf over or something. I am tired of you saying, yeah, but in my time with my 3 Super Bowl rings, yeah, we get it. You're a Super Bowl champion. Move on with your life. Anyway, back to Dak Prescott, the other Cowboys quarterback. I'd just go somewhere else, because he's just not going to get paid, plain and simple, because Jerry Jones is thinking like everybody else. Ezekiel Elliott's back is hurting from carrying this team.
Here's the question, though. Here's the thing, because he's asking for $36 million. Is there another team out there that he has leverage like this? He does not have leverage with any other team in the NFL to ask for that kind of money. You think somebody else would want to pay him $32 million a year? At least? Like, honestly, let me ask you that, Josh. Do you actually think there's another team out there that's willing to pay him $34 million a year, at least?
The New England Patriots.
No, they're not. All right, no, they're not. All right, look, I'm going to break down some of the highest paid contracts here. So, Russell Wilson, I'm going to break this down in average per year. Russell Wilson with $35 million with a total value of $140 million. Ben Roethlisberger right now at $34 million, but that was only over 2 years' time that he signed that contract last offseason. Aaron Rodgers at $33.5 million a year at $134 million. Jared Goff at $33.5 million as well. Carson Wentz at $32 and Matt Ryan at $30 million. Over $150,000, and Matt Ryan has the highest total value of.
Let me ask you something. What do all those quarterbacks have in common? They all made it to past the first round of the playoffs and into a damn Super Bowl.
Most of them.
Last time I checked, Dak Prescott's looking out back as he sees the far superior Philadelphia Eagles make it Super Bowl.
Let me just say this. I was watching. I saw this on the Herd the other day, and I agree with this statement that there are only 2 quarterbacks in the NFL at this moment in time that you could give a blank check to, let them write whatever number they want down, and that you give it to them. There's only 2. There is Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson at this moment in time. So are we saying Dak Prescott's on the same level of a Russell Wilson and a Patrick Mahomes?
No.
2 guys that have gone to the Super Bowl, been into multiple playoffs, have led their team, are the franchise guys that make the team what they are? No. Dak Prescott is nowhere near that. Now, I will say this. You could make the argument right now that Dak Prescott's a top 10 quarterback. After the season he had, I'm close to saying that you could make that argument. You could. Whether or not you agree with it, I don't care. You could make that argument. You could make it. But here's the thing is that in the game that decided their whole season, right? The game that sent Philadelphia to the playoffs instead of Dak Prescott, Carson Wentz outballed him by far with a less superior roster, very little help, and the odds stacked against them. And Carson Wentz did that. That's why he's worth that money. And ultimately, again, that's why we're not going to get Dak Prescott that kind of money because, you know, again, we're just he's not worth it at that moment in time. So I'm sick and tired of talking about it because I talk about it all the time. But you know,
it's hard to get paid when you're sitting at home at the end of like week 17. I'm just going to say that right now. He just. Like, all right, I've never been this worked up before about Dak freaking Prescott. But until he gave off those quarterback numbers, all of them at least made it past the first round of the playoffs, unlike Dak. So if Dak wants to get paid, let him get paid, but not the same level or higher than a quarterback that went to the Super Bowl, won one, but lost the other one. So,
yeah. And I'm also, again, I'll say this again because I've said it multiple times. I'm not a fan of just because somebody else makes that money means you deserve that money. No, that's not how that works. I'm not in the business of paying you because of other teams' idiocy. That's not my job. My job is to pay you what I think you're worth. And Dak Prescott, you'd be lucky. You're lucky that somebody's even considering giving you $30 million, bro. Just take it and move on. Okay? That's it. All right. One last topic we'll get into, and then we'll get into Toby's mock draft. And that is Myles Garrett reinstatement. That's right, Browns fans. Myles Garrett is back. He is in the NFL.
He's free.
He spoke with Roger Goodell and NFL executives again this week, and they have decided that he is allowed to come back and resume play immediately. After, obviously, we know of the helmet thrown to Mason Rudolph's head. Myles Garrett still defends his actions and states that Mason Rudolph still used a racial slur at him, but we're not in the business of talking about that right now. We already said our piece before, but basically, I just want to ask you guys, did the NFL get this right? Did they make the punishment correct, and did they make the reinstatement at the right time? Josh, we'll start with you.
Let's see. Hold on. This is something that's like, you know, rarely ever seen or discussed of another player using a helmet like in that fashion. So I think because it's the first time, they're going to be more lenient. I know he missed the rest of the season past that point, but I think now he, I guess, started to push like development of like a new rule or something like that the players have to follow if they ever use the helmet as a weapon, because up until that point, nobody ever thought that would happen. Because, you know, you rip your opponent's player helmet off, you throw it to the side, you don't use it as a weapon. But now it showed the NFL that this is a possibility. So I would not be surprised if in the result of him being reinstated, they're going to drop a new rule later on, like probably this like coming season, about using a helmet as a weapon in that fashion, what the penalty will officially be. So I think they got it right for the first time offense of this caliber, but I think going forward, it's going to be a lot stricter and have harsher penalties than just being suspended for the rest of the season.
Yeah, especially with, you know, Mason Rudolph not really getting severely injured, thankfully. That's probably the ultimate reason why it is that the punishment wasn't any more severe. I agree with it. Toby, do you agree with how the NFL handled this?
Yeah, I totally agree, and I was about to say exactly the same thing that Josh said. I think they're gonna give us a new rule about using the equipment as a weapon, whether it's being a helmet, your cleats, or whatever. So, yeah, I completely agree.
I would laugh if somebody gets like an Assassin's Creed like hidden blade on the wrist thing, and then like when a fight comes out, they just pop out like this.
We're not talking about the XFL right now.
Oh, that's hey, don't be dogging on the XFL, okay? That opening weekend, they actually got more audience than the Oscars and the Bachelor combined.
I mean,
okay?
It was entertaining.
It was entertaining. Yeah. It was fun.
I just want to see Cardale Jones take like a steel chair to like the knee or something like that. Just have like some guy get so mad he threw a touchdown. Take a steel chair
Jones.
to the knee.
Cardale Jones is like the face of the XFL at the moment, just because he's the most popular player because he took Ohio State to a national championship, a third string quarterback. I only think he had the second best day of opening weekend. I mean, Philip Walker, the former Colts quarterback who was the bench guy, he had a tremendous game. There's a lot of good football.
This just popped up on Twitter. The Ravens released their safety, Tony Jefferson.
Really?
Yeah, wow. They just did. So
interesting. Yep. Interesting.
It just popped up on Twitter, folks.
Be sure to go check that out. That's another piece that the Ravens are going to have to take into account come draft time. All right, and speaking of draft time, it is officially time to get into Tobi's mock draft 1.0. Tobi, the floor is yours.
All right, and first off, of course, the Baltimore news is not gonna be in my mock draft right now. It could affect it in 3 weeks when I do my next one. So I'm going to start off first pick, of course, Cincinnati Bengals. We all know where this is going. First overall pick. I don't actually know the odds for the first overall pick, but I don't think you're going to make a lot of money on it. It's going to be Joe Burrow from LSU quarterback. Cincinnati is in need of a quarterback right now, and I kind of want to see the Bengals fan base when they do not, or if they do not pick Burrow with the first overall pick.
Just to see their reaction. That's ultimately what I want to see.
Remember when the Jets didn't get Warren Sapp? That's how I picture it right there, when they passed up on Warren Sapp.
Yeah, that the second overall pick, the Washington Redskins, they're gonna take the number one overall ranked prospect in the whole draft. They don't really have a needed edge right now, but with Chase Young, you can't do anything wrong right now. And whoever is your edge rusher right now, he's definitely an upgrade on that.
Yeah.
The third pick, the Detroit Lions. There have been some rumors this week that they might be open to trade Matt Stafford. I did my mock draft before those rumors came out, but I still, with Matt Stafford on the roster, I think they have to think about their future. Tua is going to go to the Detroit Lions the first year behind Matt Stafford, still on the roster, learning behind Matt Stafford for the first year. He can cure his hip injury completely and can learn from Matt Stafford. I kind of think of it like the situation the Chiefs had in 2017 with Patrick Mahomes behind Alex Smith there for the first season. So I think they're more thinking about Trevor Lawrence next year, but who's going to say they have the first overall pick next year and be in a position they can actually pick Trevor Lawrence? There are a couple of teams down there that are in contention for that first overall pick next year. So take the position this year and draft your guy for the future.
Yeah.
With the fourth overall pick, the New York Giants, we talked about it last week with Derek's mock draft. They are in need of an offensive tackle or an offensive line guy there, but with Jeff Okudah still on the board, I don't think the Giants can pass on him. They also have a need on cornerback as well, with trading both Eli Apple and Janoris Jenkins over the last 2 seasons to the Saints. So they definitely need somebody on defense to cover the opposing wide receiver, and I think they're more than happy with Okudah falling to them. The fifth overall pick, Miami. They tried to tank for Tua, but now they're in the 5th spot, and the Detroit Lions picked Tua before them. I still think they're going with a quarterback at number 5. Of course, it's close who is ranked the 3rd overall quarterback. It's either Jordan Love or Justin Herbert. So for me right now, I think the Dolphins think that Jordan Love, or we all agree on that, actually, that Jordan Love has more potential and a higher ceiling, but definitely a low floor than Justin Herbert does. But I'm still thinking the Miami Dolphins take that risk and think Jordan Love will come to flourish to what he has the potential to do.
You would make a lot of Colts fans very unhappy with that pick, Toby. A lot of them very unhappy.
Yep.
A lot.
And I think the 6th pick is not going to make them any happier with the last of the top 4 quarterbacks going. Justin Herbert going to the LA Chargers. Of course, we already talked about it. Phillip Rivers is gone from LA. They are in need of a quarterback. He is coming from the West Coast, or West Coast College in Oregon, so it's not far down. And it makes sense for them to pick a young quarterback after Phillip Rivers. They're kind of trying to build something there in LA, and with a young guy who is popular on the West Coast, I think they can actually get their fan base or the number of their fans up in LA, which they desperately need if you're looking at their home games right now.
Yeah.
At number 7, the Carolina Panthers. They lost Luke Kuechly, of course, but I don't really see a linebacker that high in the draft this year, or at least a sole linebacker. There's a safety linebacker combo hybrid there, but he's not for Carolina. But defensive tackle, Derrick Brown. They definitely need somebody against the run and who can pass rush for the Panthers. So Derrick Brown, defensive tackle from Auburn, going to the Panthers. And the Arizona Cardinals as my 8th pick before we do a little bit of a recap. Andrew Thomas, offensive tackle from Georgia, going to Arizona. They definitely need somebody to protect Kyler Murray a little bit more and give him a little bit more time. They also could use another wide receiver there, but I think offensive tackle is more of a need. And with how deep the wide receiver position is in this draft, I think Arizona can wait for that. What do you guys think so far?
Why are all the quarterbacks up so close to each other?
I know! He's got 4 quarterbacks in the top 6. Holy crap. I mean, look, I understand where you're going with the Jordan Love one. I understand that. I do. I just don't think that they will take... It really does depend on Detroit. It really does depend on Detroit, because if Detroit does take a quarterback, then I can understand where you're going with this. But if they don't take a quarterback with that number 3 pick, then that's completely blown up. Although I did agree with, obviously, Joe Burrow, Chase Young, 1 and 2 across the board. Okuda going to the Giants, like you said, not a need, but it's definitely a thing where, well, I mean, I guess it is somewhat of a need. And Okuda being the lockdown corner, it's never a bad idea to have one of those. And obviously Justin Herbert going to the Chargers, I had that one as well. I saw a lot of mock drafts with Derrick Brown going to the Panthers, even though I don't like how you just disrespected my man Isaiah Simmons on that, but
he is more
that's
of a
okay.
safety.
We'll talk about that.
He is classified as more of a safety in most on most draft boards.
He is the only player in college football history to have played 100 snaps at 5 different positions on the defense, and that is insane. I mean, it's insane what that kid can do. He's everywhere, and I think he is a linebacker more than anything. But again, we're not going to get too deep into that just yet. But
how crazy
I
would
did
it
like
be?
Andrew Thomas at 8, though. I did like that one.
How crazy would it be if Chase Young went number 1 to Cincinnati?
Dude, that would throw so many people off. Like, here's the thing. They would be more upset. It was kind of like, I don't know. I felt like I've seen this situation before, but it's like, we're getting the best overall prospect in the whole draft, but because it's not Joe Burrow, we hate you. It's just kind of like that situation, you know? It's like, you can't go wrong with the Chase Young or Joe Burrow, but just since it's a quarterback and it's more flashy, that's why people are like, oh, we need that. I don't think the Bengals go anything other than Joe Burrow, but it'd be the biggest draft storyline ever.
Probably bigger than Colin Farrell going forward to the Raiders, throwing everything else out of whack.
The biggest storyline of last year was Daniel Jones. Yeah. And not to mention, look, if you guys didn't need to check my Twitter after this, there was an NFL draft Twitter page that said the 4th best draft class of last year was the New York Giants. The 4th best one. They drafted Daniel Jones, Dexter Lawrence, and DeAndre Baker. Did any of them do anything all year?
No.
Not really.
No, exactly my point. It's like, what the heck is this? All right. I'm sorry, Toby. I did my little rant. Well, let's move on.
It's all good, but yeah, I'm gonna start the next picks at number 9 for Jacksonville with your guy. I'm not gonna disrespect him that much. Isaiah Simmons going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think
no, going to the Jags is still one of the biggest disrespectful things.
That's sad. Because I actually am afraid of that guy.
Yeah, but I think he's a really good fit for Jacksonville. They have to get back to somewhere or to something they were in 2017 when they had the best defensive unit in the NFL. They're not quite there yet, but a player like Simmons, who Derek already said can play a lot of different positions on defense, he's definitely going to help them out wherever he's going to play. So at number 10, the Cleveland Browns, we have talked about this all year long. The biggest need for them is an offensive tackle, and I have them going with Mackie Becton at number 10 from Louisville. Baker Mayfield just needs some more protection out there. At number 11, I'm going to the New York Jets, and I think that's the same pick Derek had with Jerry Jeudy from Alabama, wide receiver, giving Sam Darnold a little bit more help out there on the field, and a true number 1 receiver. I don't think they really had a number 1 receiver in the last couple of years when Sam Darnold was there. So it's definitely going to change some things. And at number 12, the Las Vegas Raiders. It's still weird to say that.
Yeah, I know, right?
I mean, the whole thing that they're trying to get rid of Derek Carr there, it's just another team in the mix of quarterback. Again, no quarterback left in the first round, at least not that high, but they still have a lot of other holes to fill. One of them being on defense is definitely the linebacker spot, especially we're still after basically having a yard sale on defensive players 2 years ago when John Gruden went to Oakland. So I'm going with Kenneth Murray from Oklahoma at number 12 for the Raiders, and I think he's filling a hole there at linebacker against the run and the pass protection. At number 13, the Colts. I think, Derek, you had the same player, Javon Kinlaw, defensive tackle, since no quarterback is left for you guys. So the second biggest need being at the defensive tackle position. It's, like I said, really the second biggest need other than quarterback, with I think it's a pretty good spot at number 13 on most draft boards for Kinlaw to the Colts. At number 14, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Of course, we talked about it. We don't really know who's going to be their starting quarterback next year. But one thing is for sure, he's going to need a lot more protection than Jameis Winston got last year. So I got them taking Jedrick Wills, offensive tackle from Alabama, at number 14. And at number 15, the Denver Broncos. They have one of the worst offenses on a points per game basis. Sorry. With 17.6 points last year. And you're not going to win a lot of games, even with a great defense, when you only put up 17.6 games on average. So they also traded away Emmanuel Sanders to the 49ers last season, so their only wide receiver is Courtland Sutton on the team. I'm have them going with CeeDee Lamb, the wide receiver from Oklahoma, at number 15, and giving Drew Lock another weapon on that field. At number 16, the Atlanta Falcons. One thing they have been missing for so long is an actual pass rush, or an actual defense for that matter, but especially a pass rush. I have them going with H.A. Epinesa from Iowa defensive end. Just take a defensive player this year. Don't go offensive lineman all around this year again. Just try and get that defense a little bit better. All right, we are halfway through the draft. Your thoughts, guys?
Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, I liked it. All throughout this season, I didn't realize that the Colts needed a defensive tackle until I went to that Dolphins game and saw nobody was getting any pressure on Ryan Fitzpatrick. So, yes, I am fine with that pick. But, yeah. Dude, the Broncos need a lot more help. Is it possible to get them 2 first-round picks off of that 1 pick alone? Because, oh my gosh, they just can't get anything right after Peyton Manning left. Just like everything, he comes in, graces you with his presence, and when he leaves you in ruin. He's like Rome. He came, he saw, he conquered, and he left, and you were in the ruins. So, but yeah, I like that draft pick. Did you see the Snapchat I just sent you guys?
No, but I'm going to look at it.
The NFL Valentine's Day stuff.
I'll look at it after the podcast because I don't want to laugh. That number, I'm going to break each of one of these down because I find a lot of these very interesting. Isaiah Simmons, I appreciate where you're coming from with that, but it is kind of ironic that you were one of the biggest ones to harp on me about needing a wide receiver in the first round or one of the big guys and going with Isaiah Simmons. I understand why you're doing it, but it's just kind of ironic that you were harping on me about that before and you went with a defensive guy. But I do understand it. Mekhi Becton, you were right. The Browns need a tackle. And, they judge where is – I think Andrew Thomas has solidified himself as the number 1 guy. Everyone else is just flopping in the wind at this point.
Am I the only one that noticed, too, that past, the first 10 picks – there's a bunch of somewhat no-name guys just from other colleges that you really didn't pay attention to because of the SEC, the Big Ten, and all that stuff. Because after the 10th pick, when all the quarterbacks are gone, it's just well, outside of Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb, who the hell else is left?
You got some Big Ten guys and some SEC guys. It's pretty much Jerry Jeudy being 11th. It's kind of. I honestly don't think that we'll go this draft without seeing a wide receiver in the first 6 picks. Honestly, I'm starting to convince myself of that.
We did last
with
year.
Jerry Jeudy being the lead of that. That 12th pick. I'm sorry, Toby, you blew my freaking mind with that pick. Anyone that saw me knows that I have him as my 32nd pick. I don't see in any form of what Kenneth Murray could possibly do that would influence the Raiders to want to pick him at the 12th position. But that being said, we did not think Clelin Ferrell was going to be picked that early. So it is perfectly possible that Kenneth Murray could end up being there. The Colts pick, I liked Javon Kinlaw. I think if we don't go quarterback, I do think that Javon Kinlaw could be the answer. I've seen a lot of Colts fans saying they really want to see CeeDee Lamb go to the Colts if he is inevitably there, but we'll still have to see that. Jedrick Wills, I understand that one. I had Jedrick Wills a lot higher, but again, that's for another day. CeeDee Lamb, good pick there by Denver. They obviously need help. And it's funny that you mentioned with the Atlanta Falcons. When I heard you say that, I immediately started typing in AJ Epinesa before you even said his name because I was like, I remember this. Toby completely agreed with me on it, so I thought he was going to go exactly what I was doing. So, a couple interesting picks here. Couple interesting picks that people wouldn't see but would make draft day fun. That's what it is. So, overall, I like it. Overall, I see the need for.
The more we talk about mock drafts, the more I'm ready to say mine. Because let me just tell you right now, the butterfly effect is powerful when you really think about it. And you're
Josh,
going to see it in my mock draft.
Josh, I can't wait to hear your mock draft because the first one you did last year, you pissed me off so hard when you said Chase Winovich was a first round draft pick. I hated you so much for saying that. He actually went to the Green Bay Packers. He was a third round guy, but he did go to the Packers.
Wait, no, he went to the Patriots.
Yeah, he went
to the Patriots.
Oh, he's a Patriot. Oh, okay.
Man.
Well, here's the thing. So, here's the thing, Josh. So, obviously, I'm not going to be able to be here for the podcast.
That's going to make it more fun because he's going to listen to it, and I'm going to get in the middle of class. What the hell are you thinking? You know, that's what I'm waiting for.
I'm going to hear it. And then I'm going to get pissed at you for doing it. All right, Toby, continue with the second half of your first round.
All right, we're gonna start 17th, the Dallas Cowboys. A lot of uncertainty are surrounding this team, as we talked earlier. We don't know if Dak Prescott will be around. We don't know if Amari Cooper will be around. There are a couple of other players we don't know if they get re-signed by the Cowboys. But one thing is for sure, their defensive unit digressed a lot last year compared to the 2018 season. And especially that front seven needs to bounce back. But I think the front seven have a lot of potential there. They just need a little bit more help from the defensive backfield. So I'm going to go with a safety, Xavier McKinney from Alabama for the Dallas Cowboys at 17. At the 18th pick, Miami, they already went with their quarterback earlier in the round at number 5. They still have so many holes to fill, but one of the biggest to help out a quarterback is a strong run game. I'm giving them DeAndre Swift from Georgia as a running back. They have traded away their running backs left and right over the last couple of seasons, so they need some help there for sure. At number 19, we're going back to Las Vegas. They went with the linebacker early in the draft. They still need a lot of help on defense, especially covering the pass. At the second rank cornerback, I think there are two guys that are really close right now with Trevon Diggs and C.J. Henderson. Henderson is a little bit bigger guy, if I'm correct, and a more developed, and Trevon Diggs is more of a, I think, smaller guy, faster.
I think it's actually completely opposite. I think CJ's the smaller one, and he's the stronger one, though. I don't think he's as fast as Trevon. Trayvon's the bigger, but a little faster.
Yeah, but Diggs is the faster one. I watched a little bit of film during the week, but I think he was the faster one. I was not completely sure about the size, though. But yeah, I got the speed right, so I'm having them going with Trevon Diggs because of the speed in a division that they play twice against the Kansas City Chiefs, where you definitely need the speed against the receivers, as we saw in the Super Bowl a couple of weeks ago. So they get the help at quarterback at 19. At number 20, we're coming back to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Derek, you said it, and I said it a week ago, they need a wide receiver. They're gonna get their wide receiver right here. I have them going with, and please, Derek, help me out with the name Laviska Shenault from Colorado.
Jeez, you got me all messed up with that one. I did not expect that name. I think that's what it is.
I think I tore my Laviscus just talking about that guy's name. Oh my gosh.
All right. Anyway, I have him as the wide receiver going to the Jacksonville Jaguars right here. Like I said, I watched a little bit of film during the week, and that's my wide receiver ranking right here. At the 21st pick, the Philadelphia Eagles, they could also use a wide receiver right here. But as I've said earlier, the wide receiver position is pretty deep in this draft. I see them go in a different position right here. I'm actually going to go on the defensive side for the Eagles. They have to get better at defending against the pass. So they are going to, I hate this pick, but they're going to go cornerback. They're going to take C.J. Henderson from Florida. As I said earlier, it's close between him and Diggs, who is the second-rated quarterback, and which is more of a need for you. But the Eagles definitely need some help covering the pass.
It was Laviska Shenault. Yeah, that's
all right.
That's how you said it. Yeah, it's how it is. You got it pretty close.
All right, I'm glad I did not completely butcher it. All right, we're moving on to the 22nd pick, the Buffalo Bills. They're in almost the same exact position as before, the Philadelphia Eagles. They also are in need of a wide receiver, but can wait to a later round to get to fill that need. One thing that they struggled with is to cover against the run, or they were strong against the run, but were weak on getting to the quarterback on defense. So I have them stacking up on defensive tackle in Raekwon Davis from Alabama. He kind of digressed a little bit over the last 2 years in his college career, but he had a pretty strong showing in his second year in college in 2017 with 10 tackles for loss and 8.5 sacks. So he has the potential to be a big part in the pass rush, and he has already shown that he's good against the run as well, which can also help out the Buffalo Bills. At number 23, the New England Patriots, they have struggled to kind of find another offensive tackle since Sebastian Vollmer left in 2016. I have them going with Tristan Wirfs from Iowa for offensive tackle. Whoever is their quarterback starting next season, he's going to appreciate the protection or the additional protection from there. At number 24, the New Orleans Saints. I was hoping there would be a cornerback left at that position. Unfortunately, the Eagles already took C.J. Henderson. So the only real other option here is going with wide receiver. No need to reach for a cornerback, or maybe trade down to the second round, which they don't actually have a pick, and to take a cornerback there. But as we're not doing trades, I'm going with a wide receiver, Jalen Reagor from TCU. Speed guy down the field, which the Saints desperately need on the other side of Michael Thomas. They added a little bit of speed with Ted Ginn a couple of years ago, but he's getting up there in age and doesn't produce anymore, really. It was really just his first year he was with the Saints that he put up big numbers. And we saw what Drew Brees can do with a guy like Brandon Cooks when they drafted him. The only real thing keeping them from really using him was a weak defense at the time. So Jalen Reagor is really something the Saints could use on offense. So 3/4 of the draft are over. Derek, you got something to add?
What did you have for your 23rd pick? I missed that.
Tristan Wirfs from Iowa.
Okay.
Hey, do you remember when we drafted Brandon Cooks freshman year? Because we're like, hey, you got to believe the hype of this man. And we drafted him, and he did all right for our fantasy team. We kind of just threw together in the dorm room that night because we were just like last minute added into it. That just is what reminded me when you brought Brandon Cooks and the Saints. I'm like, I remember that night when the guys just like walked into our room and said, you want to join our fantasy draft league? We need one more person, and the draft starts in an hour. And we're like, sure. But yeah, I like the draft.
We won that league, by the way.
I can't believe that to this day. We threw that team together like it was a freaking Madden team, just like with a bunch of no names that like, what was it, past the 5th round, we just started picking random people. Yeah, I don't even know how we won that league. We didn't even get our money, man. That's what sucks.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, we never got our fucking money. All right, I'm sorry for swearing, folks. Toby will bleep that out. But when you realize that,
I will laugh if you actually do bleep that.
I like how it just took us like 5 years to realize we never got our money from that league. Oh my goodness. Wow. All right. Next part of your draft, we'll come back to this. Oh, yeah. We'll edit that out.
You're playing with my emotions on this one right here.
Well, your emotions are going to be played like a damn fiddle by the time my mock draft comes out.
It's not in a fiddle. It's like a drum. You're beating against me, and I don't like it. I think, for me personally, I think the only 2 picks in this 8 that you actually got, like, I could see is Tristan Wirfs to New England and Xavier McKinney. Or no, it's CJ Henderson. Guys that I see you're missing. 3 of them. Henry Ruggs, Justin Jefferson, and Yetur Gross-Matos. Those are 3 names that I'm seeing here that are missing somewhere that I'm really concerned. And especially this, like, obviously Xavier McKinney, I have him as my 31st pick, I believe. Potential first round guy. It's just going to be a matter of what his numbers look like at the combine. I agree with you with getting DeAndre Swift, just not at that 18th pick. I have them going with a running back later with that 26th pick. I feel like they need to draft an offensive lineman with that second pick to buff up that offensive line to protect whatever quarterback they get. Laviska, I don't know where you pulled that name out of, but I sure as hell never heard of him. Haven't heard much of him even through my guys that I talked to that went to mobile and all these other guys that have been doing film on him. Raekwon Davis is a guy I'm just not sure about. Obviously he has the numbers, but in mobile he got dominated quite a few times by a bunch of interior linemen, so that's kind of a thing that scares me. Tristan Wirfs is a good one. Now, I kind of agree with the Jalen Reagor one. Rager's done really well for himself with some of the camps he's been going to. And if he does put up good numbers at the combine, I do think he's a potential first-round guy. He has that potential, but again, I gave you those 3 names, and I'm still kind of in shock that you missed some of those names. But overall, I understand where you're going with all these. Again, hitting needs, I understand. I just think for teams like the Eagles and the Bills that desperately need wide receivers to help them, I don't see them going with corners and a defensive tackle. That's just me, but I do understand where you're going with. So please go ahead and finish your mock draft.
All right, we're continuing with the Minnesota Vikings with the 25th pick. I think one of the biggest needs on offense right now is an offensive guard. Kirk Cousins has been pressured from the inside so much this season, and it will actually help out Dalvin Cook as well. He has put up the numbers, but he has been working for those numbers himself. So, with the 25th pick, I have the Vikings selecting Solomon Kindley from Georgia, guard. At 26, we're going to the Miami Dolphins, and as Derek said, they are in need of an offensive lineman. After picking a quarterback and a running back already, they need somebody to help them out on the offensive line. Austin Jackson, offensive tackle from USC, is my pick for them. At number 27 for the Seattle Seahawks, they have to get back to something Legion of Boom-ish to be more successful in the future. They have some success on offense already, and DK Metcalf definitely had more of an impact than we all expected him to have last year. And this is a guy that Derek mentioned just a couple of minutes ago in Yetur Gross-Matos. I hopefully did not butcher that name. Defensive end from Penn State. At number 28, Baltimore, K'Lavon Chasen. I probably butchered that.
What was the name again?
K'Lavon Chasen, LSU outside linebacker.
I think that's what it is. I'll have to check that. Make sure.
Yeah, the Ravens are in desperate need of an offensive linebacker. Or not desperate need, but it's definitely a hole that they have to fill. We saw that when they tried to get Terrell Suggs back from Arizona when they put him out on waivers, but they didn't get him. At number 29, the Tennessee Titans, they have probably the same problem offense as the Minnesota Vikings have. They also need a guard to protect their quarterback from the inside. I have them going with Shane Lemieux, guard from Oregon, to do that job. At the 30th pick, the Green Bay Packers, they need to buff up that defense. They showed some potential early in the season, but they kind of digressed more and more as the season went on. Especially at the linebacker position, they need some more help. I have them going with Terrell Lewis from Alabama. At the 31st pick, if we have learned something from the Super Bowl, that is that the 49ers need a cornerback to cover some wide receivers, and they take one here in Christian Fulton from LSU. And with the last pick, the Kansas City Chiefs, we've talked about it. They struggled against the run all season, and they need somebody on defense to help them with them, especially a linebacker. And I have them going with Anfernee Jennings from Alabama with the 32nd pick.
All right. Please say that 28th name again. I'm trying to make sure I spell it right.
Clavon Jason.
Clavon Jason. I'm going to look that name up just so that way I can go. Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, I really do like it, but I do think, although the Chiefs did struggle against the run, I still think they need a running back more than Damian Williams. So I probably would have given them either, spoiler alert, either J.K. Dobbins or Jonathan Taylor. But I can see where you're going from, too. I mean, for the first part of the Super Bowl, Mostert kind of torched them until they forgot how to run the football. So I can see where that's going from, too.
All right, I just want to make sure I'm getting this draft right. Yep. So, yeah, I agree with you on the Solomon Kinley one. He's definitely a interior man that I think can definitely make the first round. Austin Jackson, I obviously had him much higher in my first mock draft. I can see where you're going with that one. I'm glad that you had Uter in there at one point, and it's good to see that you went with the same direction as me with Seattle, that they needed a defensive end, which is a smart idea. Kayvon Chasen, yeah, definitely an interesting one. Haven't heard much about him, but I do with it. Shane, I get that one. I haven't seen him anywhere in the top 2 rounds, but then again, I could be off on this. I guess it, again, just depends on the combine. Terrell Lewis, Anfernee Jennings, and those boys, you're kind of just like throwing mine in just a different direction here. I had those guys in 28 and 30 something, so I understand where you're going with that. So I do like that part. Again, for me, it was just your 17 through your 24 that just messed me up mentally. That was just like, wow. But overall, I like the draft. I think that that first 15 picks that you had were really rock solid. And I really liked the back end. Just again, that 17 through 24 just is throwing me a different direction. But we'll just have to see, man.
Yeah.
Josh, you got any final words on Toby's mock draft?
No, he did a pretty solid job, but it's mine.
It's on the clock, folks, is Josh Neitz. And you're definitely going to get some spicy content next week. I promise you that. And
just like the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs, this mock draft is going to do the same to everybody's hopes and change their way of thinking when it comes to the draft. This will be one mock draft to remember. It'll make Mel Kiper retire in shame.
Please do. Please do. That's great. All right, so folks, that was Toby's mock draft 1.0. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed. Be sure to check in next week for Josh Neatz's mock draft 1.0. Unfortunately, I won't be here next week. Gonna be on a cruise, but
I'm gonna be waiting for the text message of what the hell was that? Because
if you guys do record it in the middle of the week and I see it, before I get back, I'm probably gonna do that. Anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at T3DS_NFL. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to listen to us on Spotify. And as always, guys, peace.
See ya.
Later.